close your eyes and allow yourself to drift backward in time, not merely centuries or even millennia, but into an age before time itself had meaning. Imagine a boundless stillness, a silence so deep that even thought had not yet begun. This was the state the ancient Greeks called chaos. Not the chaos we think of today with noise and disorder, but rather a vast, empty void. It was a yawning nothingness, a dark and formless expanse stretching endlessly, without sky, without earth, without light. In this emptiness, there were no boundaries, no horizons, no past, no future, only the eternal presence of silence. From this profound stillness, the first stirrings of existence began to take shape, as if the void itself had grown weary of being nothing at all. The Greeks believed that from chaos, certain primordial beings slowly emerged, each representing an element of the universe that was about to be born. There was Gaia, the earth herself, solid and nurturing, who would one day become the eternal mother of all life. There was Nyx, the mysterious goddess of the night, whose dark cloak would stretch across the heavens. There was Erebus, the embodiment of shadow and darkness, lingering at the edges of existence. And there was Tartarus, the deep and hidden abyss, a pit so vast and unfathomable that even the gods would come to fear its depths. From Gaia, the earth, arose the gentle arching presence of Uranus, the sky, her eternal companion. She stretched upward, and he bent downward, and together they formed the first embrace of heaven and earth. Their union was not merely a meeting of bodies, but the very foundation of the world, earth beneath and sky above, the eternal stage upon which all myths would unfold. From their union sprang rivers and mountains, seas and forests, and countless beings, both wondrous and terrifying. Among the children of Gaia and Uranus were the Titans, mighty and vast, who would rule the world in an age before the Olympian gods. There were also monstrous beings, the one-eyed Cyclopes, masters of fire and forging, and the dreadful Hecatoncheires, creatures with 100 hands and 50 heads, so fearsome that Uranus himself cast them deep into the shadows of the earth, unwilling to face their terrible power. Yet Gaia loved all her children, even those who were strange and monstrous, and she wept when Uranus imprisoned them. In her grief, she began to plot the rise of a new age, one in which the cruelty of Uranus would be challenged. And so, within this mythic dawn, existence was no longer a void, but a tapestry, slowly weaving itself together. The darkness gave way to light. The earth rose from the formlessness of chaos, and the sky bent protectively over it. From emptiness came order. From silence came sound. From stillness came the first heartbeat of creation. The ancient Greeks told these stories not merely as explanations of how the world began, but as gentle reminders that even in the greatest emptiness, life will find a way to emerge. Just as the stars pierced the night sky, shining against the darkness, so too did the first gods pierce the silence of chaos. In their myths, the world was never accidental. It was born from a deep and mysterious order, one that carried within it both beauty and terror, both creation and destruction. As you listen, allow the rhythm of this story to settle over you like a soft blanket. Imagine the darkness of chaos stretching endlessly, quiet and calm, and then imagine the first glimmers of light, faint but growing, as the universe stirs itself awake. Picture Gaia, the earth, steady and patient, lying beneath your feet, while Uranus, the sky, arches above you, vast and infinite. Feel the timelessness of that first embrace, the eternal marriage of heaven and earth, the union that made all things possible. And so begins the great story of Greek mythology, not with thunder, not with war, not even with life as we know it, but with silence, with emptiness, with the patient, endless breath of chaos, out of which everything, gods, mortals, and stories that have lasted thousands of years, would slowly, gently, and inevitably unfold. In the deep silence that followed the first breath of creation, the world began to take on shape, though it was still wild, untamed, and filled with powers far greater than those of mortals who would one day walk the earth. At the heart of this unfolding cosmos stood Gaia, the earth herself, immense and patient, her fertile soil stretching endlessly in every direction, her mountains towering like ancient sentinels, her rivers and forests winding and sprawling with quiet majesty. Beneath her surface lay hidden energies, strange and eternal, shaping the future in ways unseen and unfathomable. Gaia, who had borne the first children with Uranus, gazed upon them with both pride and sorrow. Her offspring were powerful, untamed and wild, filled with a force that even the heavens could not contain. Among these firstborn were the Titans, colossal beings whose strength and presence dwarfed anything that had come before. There was Oceanus, whose endless waters encircled the world like a silver ribbon flowing in eternal motion, and Hyperion, the shining light, who would one day illuminate the cosmos with the brilliance of the sun. Coeus, the embodiment of intellect and curiosity, turned his gaze to the mysteries of the heavens, while Creus measured the endless expanse of time itself. Iapetus, who would father both mortals and heroes, walked the earth with heavy steps that echoed across valleys and plains. And then there were Cronus and Rhea, whose destinies were bound to both triumph and tragedy, whose stories would forever shape the very fate of gods and men alike. But not all was harmonious among these first children. Uranus, the sky, who had once embraced Gaia with tender union, became a tyrant as time unfolded. His fear of being overthrown, his dread of losing control over the vast powers he had helped create, led him to imprison the Hecatonchires, the hundred-handed giants, and the Cyclopes, the one-eyed craftsmen of unimaginable skill. Deep within the bowels of the earth, they were bound, left in darkness, their cries muffled but never silenced, echoing faintly through the roots of mountains and the hollows of the deepest caverns. Gaia, their mother, wept endlessly at their suffering, feeling the tremor of injustice in her very core, and from her grief arose a plan as patient and inexorable as the slow passage of time itself. It was Cronus, the youngest of the Titans, who heeded her whispers, who listened to her sorrow as it flowed through the hidden veins of the world. Gaia, with her infinite wisdom and deep, nurturing power, crafted a sickle of adamantine strength, a tool that would sever the cruel grip of Uranus upon their children. She spoke to Cronus in words both gentle and commanding, teaching him patience and resolve, reminding him that the cosmos itself bends only when one dares to act with unwavering courage. And so, under the shadowed canopy of a sky still filled with the vast emptiness of chaos's remnants, Cronus rose, with a heart Trembling yet determined, he ascended to the heights of heaven, lifting the sickle that gleamed with the first light of anticipation, and struck. The act was both violent and profound, a moment in which the tyranny of the old order was shattered and the first true shift of cosmic power occurred. As Uranus fell, his blood spilling across the earth, it mingled with Gaia's fertile soil, giving rise to strange and wondrous beings, the Furies, spirits of vengeance who would haunt the moral landscape of gods and men alike. The giants, whose strength and fury would one day challenge even the mightiest Olympians, and the Meliae, nymphs of the ash trees, whose quiet, hidden presence would imbue forests with both magic and mystery. This was a turning point not only in power, but in the very rhythm of existence. The Titans had risen not merely as rulers of the earth and sky, but as symbols of change, of the inevitable cycle in which the old gives way to the new, where even gods must confront their own mortality and limitations. And yet, even in this triumph, there was no finality. The cosmos continued to shift subtly and inexorably as the seeds of future conflict, ambition, and destiny were sown. Cronus and the other Titans ruled, but the whispers of prophecy lingered, carried on the winds, and etched into the mountains, hinting that the age of Titans, though mighty, was not eternal. Gaia, patient and eternal, observed all, knowing that the tapestry of time and fate was only beginning to unfold, that the threads of destiny were weaving themselves into patterns unseen, destined to shape not just gods and titans, but the mortal world that had yet to come into being. So, as you listen, imagine the vastness of the early cosmos, the shadowed mountains and endless seas, the immense titans pacing with measured grace, the echoes of imprisoned giants and one-eyed cyclopes stirring deep within the earth. Feel the tension of the old order giving way to the new, the slow, majestic rhythm of power, shifting, of destiny, awakening. Let your mind drift alongside these colossal beings, tracing the long, deliberate movements of their lives, their struggles, their triumphs, as the world itself quietly unfolds around them, patient, eternal, and immeasurably vast. And as your eyelids grow heavier, allow the voice of the cosmos itself to lull you, whispering through the forests and across the oceans, across mountains and skies, carrying the weight of time, the gentle rhythm of creation, and the immense, slow, hypnotic presence of the Titans, who now, in their glory, stand as the silent architects of all that is to come. After the age of Titans had taken its first hold over the cosmos, and after the old order had been shaken by the decisive actions of Cronus, the universe entered a period of quiet anticipation, a stillness pregnant with possibility, as though the world itself were holding its breath, waiting for the next chapter in the story of existence to unfold. From the fertile soil of Gaia and the broken fragments of Uranus, life and power began to shift, slowly and inevitably, shaping not just the physical world, but the very structure of destiny and the threads of time. It was in this delicate balance that the next generation of gods, the Olympians, began to stir. Beings who would embody not only strength and power, but also cunning, wisdom, passion, and desire, reflecting both the divine and the deeply human within the eternal order of things. Cronus, now ruler of the Titans, held dominion over the heavens and the earth, yet even he was not immune to the whispers of fate, that had begun to circle around him like invisible currents in a boundless sea. The prophecy had been spoken before his rise, long before the Titans themselves had taken form, warning that he would be overthrown by one of his own children, that the cycle of power would continue inexorably as it always had and always would. Fearful and anxious, Cronus, who bore both strength and cunning, sought to thwart destiny in the only way he knew, by consuming his offspring at the moment of their birth. One by one, children of Cronus and his sister consort Rhea were swallowed into his gaping jaws, devoured before they could even breathe the world's first air. Each act was both horrifying and filled with quiet inevitability, a stark reminder that even gods are subject to the inexorable tide of fate. But Rhea, mother of the gods, was clever and patient as the earth itself. She loved her children deeply, and she could not bear the thought of them being consumed, erased from existence before they had a chance to shape the world. When it came time for her youngest child, she conceived a plan, subtle and deliberate, woven with the careful timing of someone who understands the quiet power of patience and the inevitability of change. From the moment of birth, she swaddled her newborn son, Zeus, not in mere cloth, but in a shield of secrecy and cunning, and handed Cronus a carefully wrapped stone, indistinguishable from the child, which he swallowed without suspicion. The infant Zeus was spirited away to a hidden cave on the island of Crete, a sanctuary carved into the earth and veiled by forests, rivers, and mountains, where time itself seemed to move more slowly, allowing the child to grow strong, wise, and patient, nurtured by the gentle hands of nymphs and the quiet watchfulness of Gaia, who still whispered to her children from beneath the soil. As Zeus grew, the cosmos shifted around him, every mountain, every river, every star in the night sky, marking the slow passage of his maturation. He learned from the nymphs the songs of the wind, the whispers of the forests, and the hidden currents of rivers, absorbing the wisdom and power of the world itself. The Cyclopes, once imprisoned by Uranus and freed by the shifting tides of fate, forged for him his mighty thunderbolt, the weapon that would one day command the heavens. The Hecatonchires, too, who had languished in darkness, lent their immense strength to him, their 100 hands working in unison to shape the very fabric of the cosmos for the coming war. Slowly, inexorably, the stage was being set for the greatest confrontation the universe had yet witnessed, the war between the old order of Titans and the emerging power of the Olympians. The moment approached when Zeus, now grown in secret, stepped forward with a quiet, deliberate power, calling upon his allies and rallying forces that had long been hidden from the world. He was not merely a child of prophecy, he was the embodiment of patience, wisdom, and strategy, a god who understood both the majesty of power and the necessity of restraint. The Titans, mighty and formidable as they were, had grown accustomed to the quiet rhythm of their reign, and yet they had not anticipated the precision and calm determination of the new generation. Slowly, methodically, Zeus struck, challenging Cronus and the Titans in a conflict that would echo through the heavens and the earth for generations, a war not merely of strength, but of cunning, strategy, and inexorable destiny. From this great conflict, known to mortals and gods alike as the Titanomachy, emerged the Olympians as rulers of the cosmos. Zeus, with his thunderbolt raised, claimed dominion over the sky and the heavens, ruling with both authority and tempered wisdom. His siblings, freed from the jaws of Cronus, each took their place among the new pantheon. Hera, radiant and powerful, destined to oversee marriage and the bonds of mortals. Poseidon, whose dominion over the seas would shape the tides, storms, and tempests of the world. Hades, who would descend into the shadowed depths to rule the underworld with solemn justice. Demeter, whose nurturing presence would ensure the fertility of the earth. Hestia, guardian of the hearth, whose quiet vigilance would protect the sanctity of home and family. And finally, Hebe, who would bring youth and renewal to all beings, mortal and divine alike. And so, the Olympians rose from the shadows of the Titans, not with a sudden eruption of power, but through patient preparation, subtle cunning, and the quiet inevitability of fate. As you listen, imagine the stillness of the cave where Zeus grew, the gentle rustle of leaves in the hidden forests, the soft murmurs of streams carving their way through mountains, the quiet forging of weapons by unseen hands, and the slow, deliberate movements of time itself, bringing the cosmos closer to a new order, a new age, a new chapter in the story of gods and men. Let your mind drift among the clouds of Olympus. Feel the immense presence of the gods gathering their strength, sense the tension of the impending war, and allow the rhythm of these eternal events to lull you deeper into relaxation, deeper into a gentle, unhurried sleep, as the universe prepares itself for the rise of its most legendary rulers. With the rise of Zeus and the victorious Olympians, a new era unfolded across the cosmos, a time in which the heavens themselves seemed to hum with quiet power, and the earth below vibrated with the potential of both wonder and peril. This was an age not marked merely by the rule of gods, but by the establishment of a divine order, a rhythm to existence that would govern mortals and immortals alike, shaping destinies, inspiring awe, and weaving the endless tapestry of myth that would echo across centuries. Picture the vast halls of Olympus, perched high above the clouds, radiant with soft golden light, where every hall and corridor carried the hum of immortal voices and the gentle rustle of flowing robes. In these halls, the gods gathered not in haste or hasteful clamor, but with the deliberate grace of beings who understood that eternity itself allowed for patience, contemplation, and subtle influence over the worlds below. Zeus, seated upon his throne with the immense thunderbolt gleaming at his side, ruled with a measured authority that balanced power with prudence. He was both awe-inspiring and calm, a god whose presence commanded attention yet invited reflection, whose decisions shaped not only the heavens but the mortal realms far below. His gaze extended across oceans and mountains, across forests and plains, knowing every hidden movement of mortals, every whisper of the wind, every shift in the course of rivers, and even the faint tremor of the earth beneath cities and villages. Beside him sat Hera, radiant in her dignity and quiet wisdom, her gaze serene yet piercing, watching over marriage, the sacred bonds between humans, and the order of domestic life, ensuring that loyalty and fidelity, even among mortals, carried weight across time and generations. Her presence softened the fierce power of Zeus, tempering it with measured guidance, and together they embodied both authority and nurturing, the duality of governance and care that would define the pantheon. Across the halls of Olympus, the other gods took their place, each imbued with power that reflected both their nature and the vast complexity of existence itself. Poseidon, master of the seas, exuded both the calm majesty of still waters and the overwhelming fury of storms. His trident shaping tides, guiding ships, and stirring tempests with a gesture almost imperceptible yet undeniably potent. Hades, sovereign of the underworld, ruled the shadowed depths with solemnity and unwavering justice, his presence a quiet reminder that death and the unseen world were as integral to existence as life and light. Demeter, nurturing and patient, watched over the fertility of the earth, ensuring the cycle of seasons, the growth of crops, and the quiet, persistent renewal that allowed mortals to thrive. Her soft whispers carried on the wind to guide farmers, shepherds, and all who tilled the land. Hestia, guardian of the hearth, maintained the sacred flame in every home, a quiet presence that comforted mortals and gods alike, reminding all of the sanctity of warmth, of family, and of the spaces where love and life begin. In this time, the Olympians' interactions were subtle yet profound, shaping destinies through both action and inaction, through whispered counsel, through gentle nudges and decisive interventions. The world below felt the influence of these divine beings in ways both visible and invisible. The sudden rise of a river, the calming of a storm, the fertility of a harvest, or the sudden courage of a hero about to undertake a great journey. Mortals, unaware of the full scale of divine orchestration, often sensed only glimpses of these forces, interpreting them as omens, signs, or inspirations, not realizing that the threads of their lives were being guided with patient hands across the vast loom of fate. And yet, even in this serene age, the pantheon was not without its tensions, its passions, or its intricate relationships. Zeus himself was both a ruler and a figure of desire, whose love, anger, and wisdom intertwined to create stories that would echo through generations. Hera, steadfast and observant, responded with both caution and grace, her presence a quiet counterbalance to the impulses of her brother and husband. Poseidon's temper could shift the seas in an instant, reminding all of the latent power held within the cosmos, while Hades' silent watch ensured that balance and consequence were never far removed from mortal action. Each god in their own domain carried immense responsibilities, their influence shaping the course of history, the destiny of mortals, and the eternal narrative that we now call mythology. As you listen, imagine the slow cadence of their lives, the soft echoes of footsteps on marble halls, the gentle rustle of robes through corridors of eternity, the glimmer of sunlight streaming through clouds onto Olympus's shining peaks. Picture the quiet deliberation of Zeus, the patient guidance of Hera, the serene vigilance of Demeter, and the calming presence of Hestia, all moving in harmony, yet carrying the tension and complexity that make them alive, not merely as figures of power, but as eternal forces whose stories ripple through both heaven and earth. Let your mind wander across this divine landscape, feeling the immense weight and gentle rhythm of immortality as each god moves with quiet purpose, shaping worlds, lives, and stories in ways both subtle and profound. In the vast silence between their actions, listen to the slow heartbeat of Olympus itself, the faint hum of magic and authority that sustains the cosmos, the gentle murmur of rivers, the whisper of winds across mountains, and the soft, endless presence of the gods who now reign, patiently, powerfully, and eternally, in a rhythm that is both timeless and comforting, lulling you deeper and deeper into relaxation, into calm, and into the serene embrace of sleep. As the age of the Olympians unfolded, the world below began to change in ways both subtle and profound, guided not only by the hands of gods, but also by those rare beings who straddled the line between divine and mortal, who carried within them both extraordinary power and the frailty of compassion. Among these figures, none was more remarkable, more patient in thought, or more daring in action than Prometheus. The Titan who chose a path divergent from the will of Zeus, who observed the struggles of mortals with quiet empathy, and who, with meticulous care and foresight, sought to bestow upon humanity a gift that would change the course of existence itself. Imagine him standing on a high cliff, the wind whispering around him, the vast expanse of earth and sky spread before his eyes, contemplating the fragile and often helpless forms of mortals who struggled to survive beneath the shadow of gods, whose power was as immense as it was unknowable. Prometheus, whose name means forethought, understood the balance of the universe as few could, aware that every action carried consequences that would ripple far beyond the moment. He watched the humans, shivering in cold nights, huddled around meager fires, their eyes reflecting both fear and curiosity, yearning for knowledge and warmth that the natural world had denied them. In his quiet deliberation, Prometheus realized that while the gods possessed power in abundance, the humans were frail and vulnerable, and that a single, carefully chosen act could illuminate the path for generations yet unborn. It was then, in the stillness of contemplation, that he conceived of the gift of fire, not merely as a tool, but as a symbol of enlightenment, of progress, of hope in a world governed by both chaos and divine will. With deliberate stealth, Prometheus descended from the heights of Olympus, moving silently through shadows, past the vigilant gaze of gods who might see his intentions as transgression. He approached the sacred forge, where the Cyclopes shaped divine energies into instruments of power, and there, with careful hands and steady resolve, he took a fragment of the eternal flame, a spark that contained not only warmth, but also knowledge, curiosity, and the potential for transformation. Holding this spark, he returned to the mortal realm, carrying within him both courage and the awareness that his act would incur the wrath of Zeus, whose authority and pride would not allow the balance of power to shift so easily. When Prometheus bestowed fire upon humanity, lighting hearths and illuminating night skies, he did more than warm bodies, he ignited minds. Humans began to cook, to create, to build, and to imagine. They looked at the stars with wonder, crafting stories that mirrored the patterns of the heavens, and they began to understand, in small yet profound ways, the power that knowledge could bring. Yet, as with all gifts, there was a shadow cast upon the brilliance of fire. Zeus, perceiving the challenge to his authority, determined that punishment must follow. The Titan, bound to a rock in the desolate wilderness, endured agony as an eagle feasted upon him daily, a cycle unending, a reminder of the tension between foresight, compassion, and divine authority. And still, even in suffering, Prometheus remained steadfast, his resolve unbroken, knowing that the spark he had given humanity would endure far beyond his own pain. lighting the path of civilization for countless generations. And then there was Pandora, crafted by the gods themselves, each granting her form, beauty, and talents, shaping her into a being both extraordinary and tragic. She was given a box, a vessel whose contents were sealed with divine decree, a gift and a test, intertwined. Curiosity, delicate and irresistible, was woven into her essence, a trait that mirrored the insatiable curiosity of mortals who would one day open doors to discovery and consequence alike. When the box was finally opened, whether by hesitation, wonder, or the simple pull of curiosity, it unleashed into the world all manner of misfortune, sorrow, disease, struggle, and the ceaseless trials that would define human existence. Yet, at the bottom of the box remained one quiet, unassuming presence, hope, lingering as a faint light amidst the darkness, a reminder that even in the shadow of suffering, the human spirit could endure, adapt, and persevere. As you listen, allow your mind to drift across these vast landscapes of thought and consequence. Picture Prometheus, enduring, steadfast, gazing at the flickering flames that now illuminate mortal faces below, feeling both sorrow and satisfaction. A silent guardian of knowledge and progress. Imagine Pandora, her hands trembling, the box in her lap, and the first release of trials that would shape human history, tempered by the faint, enduring glow of hope. Visualize the quiet rhythms of life and suffering, of curiosity and consequence, and feel the gentle, inexorable movement of the universe as it unfolds, guiding gods and mortals alike in a slow, patient dance of creation, consequence, and endurance. Let your breath match the cadence of these eternal events, slow and steady, drifting with the rhythm of flames, the rustle of winds across mountains, the soft murmur of rivers in distant valleys, the quiet sigh of forests stretching across time. Feel the weight of immortal presence above you, the subtle guidance of unseen hands shaping the flow of existence, and allow your mind to relax into the patient, timeless embrace of myth itself. Each story, each action, each spark of courage, suffering, and hope forms a tapestry vast and intricate, a tapestry into which your thoughts can sink, unhurried, peaceful, and calm, letting sleep draw you deeper into the soft, endless night of imagination and eternal rhythm. As the Olympians settled into their reign, the world below became a stage for stories that would shape human imagination for millennia. Stories not only of gods, but of mortals, heroes, and the creatures that walked in shadowed corners of the earth, of beings whose courage, cunning, and sometimes tragic flaws would echo through the ages. Imagine a world alive with possibility, where the forests are thick and mysterious, the mountains rise like silent sentinels, and the oceans stretch endlessly, hiding creatures both wondrous and terrifying. It is in this vast tapestry that the first heroes emerge, guided subtly by the gods above, their fates intertwined with both mortal ambition and divine will, each destined to face trials that test not only strength, but heart, mind, and spirit. Among the earliest of these heroes was Perseus, son of Danae, and the god Zeus, whose story begins in shadows and uncertainty, in a kingdom where fear and jealousy weave their quiet, persistent threads. Perseus was tasked with the impossible, to confront Medusa, the dreaded Gorgon whose gaze could turn any living being to stone, a creature of beauty and horror, cursed and isolated from the world. Imagine Perseus standing on the precipice of destiny, the wind tugging at his hair and cloak, the vast sky stretching overhead as he contemplates the enormity of what lies ahead. He does not move hastily, nor does he rush. Every step, every breath, every thought is deliberate, as though he senses the weight of history upon him, the silent gaze of gods and mortals alike, watching, waiting, and judging. With the subtle guidance of Athena, goddess of wisdom, Perseus embarks on his quest, moving through shadowed forests and treacherous cliffs, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath his feet and the quiet encouragement of divine forces unseen. The air itself seems to hold its breath as he approaches the lair of Medusa. The tension almost tangible, the danger absolute, yet his resolve is unwavering. The Gorgon, with snakes coiled and eyes hidden from sight, waits, a guardian of the delicate line between life and death, between heroism and tragedy. In this encounter, the story teaches more than courage. It whispers of patience, intelligence, and the quiet, deliberate actions that define true heroism. Perseus, with a mirror-like shield reflecting Medusa's image rather than confronting her gaze directly, moves slowly, carefully, until the task is complete, a moment of triumph that is both exhilarating and steeped in awe, leaving a quiet echo that resonates through the human imagination. And Perseus is only the beginning. Across lands and seas, countless heroes arise, each bound to trials that shape them, define them, and in their struggle illuminate the human condition. Orpheus, whose music can soothe both men and beasts, navigates grief and longing as he descends into the underworld to retrieve his beloved Eurydice, teaching that love is both enduring and fragile, a force that transcends life and death. Icarus, soaring on wings of wax, feels the intoxicating pull of ambition, flying higher and higher despite warnings, illustrating the perilous beauty of desire and the delicate balance between aspiration and folly. King Midas, touched by greed, learns in the stillness of consequence that even wealth can carry the weight of despair, that what seems desirable may harbor profound lessons in humility and understanding. Each story, each hero, is a mirror reflecting courage, flaw, resilience, and the quiet triumphs of the heart against overwhelming odds. Monsters, too, are never merely threats. They are embodiments of nature's wildness, of chaos and challenge that test the mettle of those who dare confront them. Medusa, with her serpentine hair and deadly gaze, is a reminder that beauty and horror can coexist, that fear can be both instructive and transformative. The Minotaur, dwelling in the labyrinth, embodies confinement and the unknown, teaching that the path to understanding is rarely straight, that courage requires navigation of twists, turns, and darkness. Even Sisyphus, condemned to roll his boulder endlessly up the hill, reflects the quiet endurance of the human spirit, a persistence in the face of futility, a meditation on effort, patience, and the slow, deliberate rhythm of existence. As you listen, allow your mind to wander among these heroes and monsters. Picture the forests and cliffs, the twisting labyrinths, the silent echoes of ancient corridors, the flash of a mirror reflecting a deadly gaze, the subtle movement of wings against the sunlit sky. Feel the tension, the exhilaration, the quiet moments of reflection that shape these beings into legends, letting your imagination roam freely, tracing the slow, deliberate paths of courage and consequence. The stories unfold at a pace that is unhurried, each moment drawn out, each detail lingered upon, so that the mind can savor the depth, the beauty, and the profound resonance of these tales, allowing both excitement and calm to coexist, guiding the listener deeper into thought, into reflection, and ultimately into the gentle embrace of sleep. Let your breath match the rhythm of these stories, long and steady, drifting with the heroes as they journey across the earth and seas, moving silently through forests, climbing mountains, facing monsters, enduring grief, celebrating triumph, feeling fear, hope, and determination in slow, unhurried waves. Imagine the quiet guidance of the gods above, the subtle nudges of fate, the delicate interplay of human choice and divine influence, and let your mind be carried away on a journey where courage, wisdom, and wonder intertwine, where every heartbeat matches the slow cadence of myth, and where, with each passing moment, you drift closer to a state of serene, untroubled sleep. In the quiet aftermath of the Olympians' rise, the world below was alive with both wonder and peril, a realm in which mortal courage would be tested, shaped, and immortalized in tales that would echo across centuries. Among mortals, none would achieve a renown so vast, so profound, that even the gods themselves could scarcely ignore it, as Heracles, son of Zeus, and the mortal woman, Alcmene, began to carve his path through the tapestry of existence. Imagine him as a young man, tall and broad, his muscles coiled like spring-loaded cords, his gaze steady yet reflective, standing beneath the vast sky, feeling the weight of both divinity and humanity upon his shoulders. From birth, Heracles carried the duality of being both human and god, a bridge between mortality and the immortal, destined to confront trials that would test the limits of strength, wisdom, and endurance. The 12 labors of Heracles were not merely feats of physical might, though each demanded tremendous strength, cunning, and courage. They were also lessons, each task a meditation on resilience, patience, and the quiet persistence required to overcome suffering and injustice. The first labor, to slay the Nemean lion, required not only brute force, but the slow, deliberate understanding of the beast's invulnerable hide, a challenge that would teach Heracles to observe, to plan, and to adapt, reminding us that raw power alone cannot triumph without thought and foresight. As he wrestled the lion, feel the slow cadence of his breath, the shifting of muscles under skin, the subtle awareness of danger, and the precise timing of each movement, a rhythm that mirrors the heartbeat of the listener, steady, deliberate, and calming. The second labor, the capture of the Lernaean hydra, a serpent with multiple heads that regrew when severed, demanded not only strength, but ingenuity. Heracles discovered, through careful observation and patient action, that the monster's regenerative nature could be countered by fire, illustrating that triumph often comes not from haste or force alone, but from wisdom, strategy, and the quiet contemplation of one's environment. Imagine the smoke curling in the twilight, the hiss of the beast, and the slow, meticulous effort of a hero whose mind and body move as one, each action deliberate, each breath synchronized with the task at hand. A meditation on endurance and persistence. Across the remaining labors, Heracles faced creatures and challenges that seemed beyond comprehension. The Ceryneian hind, swift and ethereal, teaching patience and the subtlety of pursuit. The Erymanthian boar, a force of raw chaos, subdued with strategy and careful planning. The Augean stables, where years of neglect created a monumental task, reminding that ingenuity and persistence can overcome even the most overwhelming obstacles. The Stymphalian birds, whose razor-sharp feathers and relentless numbers required both courage and cleverness. The capture of the Cretan bull, the taming of the mares of Diomedes, the retrieval of the belt of Hippolyta, the capture of Geryon's cattle, the seizing of the golden apples of the Hesperides, and finally, the bringing back of Cerberus, the fearsome guardian of the underworld, to the mortal realm. Each labor is a story not just of challenge, but of endurance, intelligence, morality, and the delicate interplay of divine guidance and human action. As you listen, picture the sweeping landscapes of these labors, the dense forests hiding the hydra, the sparkling rivers where the Cyrenaean hind flees, the stables thick with the weight of years, the sky darkened by flocks of Stymphalian birds, the distant mountains where Geryon's cattle roam. Feel the slow rhythm of Heracles' movements, the steady cadence of his breath, the quiet moments of reflection between trials, the satisfaction of ingenuity applied with patience, and the subtle whispers of gods who watch and guide without interfering too directly, allowing mortals to learn, struggle, and grow. Let your mind travel alongside him, feeling both the excitement and the calmness, the danger and the strategy, the tension and the release, in a long, unhurried flow. Each trial stretches the imagination and teaches that true strength is not merely physical, but the combination of courage, intelligence, patience, and the quiet endurance of the spirit. Imagine the hero pausing at night, looking at the stars, feeling both the weight of his divine heritage and the fragility of his mortal life, contemplating the lessons of the day, preparing for the trials yet to come, and allowing the mind of the listener to mirror that same slow, meditative rhythm. In this way, the story of Heracles' 12 labors becomes not only a record of heroism, but a gentle, hypnotic journey, drawing the listener into a world of courage, consequence, and reflection. Feel the vastness of the earth beneath him, the immensity of the sky above, the whisper of the wind across mountains and forests, and let the rhythm of each labor, each triumph and subtle pause lull you into a state of calm, unhurried awareness, preparing the mind and body for deep, peaceful sleep as the hero moves through a world of challenge and triumph, teaching by example the quiet, patient strength that lies within all of us. After the heroic feats of Perseus and Heracles, the world of mortals and gods continued to unfold in grand, intricate patterns, weaving together courage, ambition, love, and the eternal dance of fate. In this vast tapestry emerged Jason, a young man of mortal lineage, yet marked by destiny, whose life would become entwined with a quest so daring, so filled with peril and wonder, that it would capture the imagination of both gods and mortals alike for generations to come. Imagine him standing at the edge of his homeland, the wind tugging at his hair, the sun setting behind distant hills, the sea stretching endlessly before him, whispering promises of adventure and danger. Jason's heart is both eager and wary, aware that the path ahead will demand not only courage, but wisdom, patience, and the unwavering commitment to a destiny that has already begun to shape itself around him. Jason's journey begins with the quest for the Golden Fleece, a symbol of kingship, power, and the legitimacy of rule, guarded in the far reaches of Colchis, across seas fraught with danger and lands brimming with the unknown. To undertake such a task, Jason gathers a crew of heroes, the famed Argonauts, each with extraordinary skill, courage, and character, each destined to leave a mark upon the world in ways subtle and profound. Among them are warriors, seers, and craftsmen, all moving together as one, united by purpose, yet each carrying their own desires, fears, and secrets. Picture their ship, the Argo, vast and sturdy, gliding across the waves with the steady rhythm of oars dipping into the water. Each stroke a beat in the heart of a story that will stretch across continents and years, a slow and deliberate march toward destiny. As Jason sails toward Colchis, the world itself becomes a character in his story. Storms rise from nowhere, waves tower like mountains, and the wind sings songs of warning and encouragement. Along the way, the Argonauts encounter challenges that test not only their physical strength, but their judgment, their courage, and the bonds that unite them. There are the islands of the Harpies, where cruel spirits torment the wise blind king Phineus, and Jason intervenes with cleverness and bravery, teaching that compassion and intelligence often serve as the truest forms of heroism. They navigate the clashing rocks, a narrow passage that opens only briefly before crushing anything in between, and Jason, guided by Orpheus's music and divine insight, times each movement with patience and precision, illustrating the delicate balance of risk and strategy, of anticipation and action, in a world governed by both mortal and divine forces. The journey to Colchis is also a journey into the human heart, into the complexity of love, loyalty, and ambition. There is Medea, a sorceress of unmatched skill and insight, whose fate becomes entwined with Jason's in ways both wondrous and tragic. Her intelligence, her courage, and her capacity for both love and vengeance illuminate the thin line between devotion and obsession, teaching the listener that human emotion, like heroism, carries both light and shadow together. Jason and Medea confront tasks that seem impossible. The taming of fire-breathing oxen, the sowing of dragon teeth that sprout into warriors, and the guarding of the golden fleece itself by a sleepless dragon. Each challenge is immense, not only in physical danger, but in moral and emotional weight, stretching the listener's imagination across the vastness of mountains, forests, and oceans, as well as the depths of human courage and ingenuity. Throughout the journey, the Argonauts' unity and conflict mirror the slow rhythms of the human experience, moments of triumph followed by doubt, trust tested by fear, and courage strengthened by adversity. Jason learns not only to lead, but to listen, to balance boldness with reflection, to weigh his heart against the demands of destiny, and to recognize the profound ways in which even the smallest choices can ripple across the lives of many. As the fleece is finally obtained, the culmination of this long and perilous journey is both triumphant and sobering. For the path of heroism is never simple, never purely joyous, and always carries lessons of patience, humility, and foresight. As you listen, picture the ship cutting through silvered waves under a sky lit by countless stars, the Argonaut's steady movements echoing the rhythm of your own breath, the wind whispering secrets of the gods above and the earth below, the distant mountains looming like guardians of fate. Feel the tension and release, the careful deliberation of each maneuver, the quiet moments of reflection under a night sky, the exhilaration of triumph, and the soft, enduring presence of both human courage and divine guidance. Let the slow, deliberate unfolding of this epic tale carry you deeper into focus and calm, drawing your mind along the waves, over mountains, through forests, and into the very heart of adventure and wonder until your imagination drifts peacefully, gently, and unhurriedly into the embrace of sleep. After the daring exploits of Jason and the Argonauts, the world continued to teem with stories of courage, intelligence, and the quiet endurance of mortals facing challenges that seemed insurmountable. Among these tales, none is more suspenseful, mysterious, or enthralling than the story of Theseus, the Prince of Athens, whose journey into the depths of the labyrinth would forever define bravery, wit, and the delicate dance between human ingenuity and divine intervention. Imagine Athens in its early days, a city of stone and timber, its streets alive with a murmur of citizens, markets bustling with trade, and children chasing one another under the warm sun. Yet beneath this ordinary surface lies an extraordinary shadow, the labyrinth. A vast, twisting, living maze built by the brilliant and enigmatic Daedalus, a structure so cunning and intricate that even the cleverest mind could lose itself forever. Within its walls dwells the Minotaur, a creature part man, part bull, a fearsome embodiment of chaos, isolation, and the consequences of unchecked power. Theseus, upon reaching the age of destiny, volunteers to confront the Minotaur, a task both terrifying and awe-inspiring, knowing that the lives of many rest upon his courage and wisdom before entering. He receives guidance from the wise and cunning Ariadne, whose knowledge of the labyrinth's secrets and her gift of a simple thread allow Theseus to navigate its twists and turns with confidence. Imagine the quiet tension of the moment as Theseus stands at the threshold. The walls looming around him like sentinels of stone, the shadows stretching impossibly long, the faint sound of the Minotaur's breathing echoing through corridors that twist and turn beyond comprehension. Each step he takes is deliberate, measured, as he senses both the weight of his mission and the watchful presence of the gods above, whose subtle influence guides him without interference, allowing his courage and intellect to shine. Inside the labyrinth, the tension is palpable, each corridor a puzzle, each turn a challenge, each sound a potential threat. Theseus moves slowly, listening, observing, feeling the vibrations of the earth beneath his feet, noting the faint rustle of the creature ahead, the brush of air against walls, the subtle signs left by Ariadne's thread. His mind remains focused, his body poised, muscles coiled with anticipation as he approaches the heart of the maze where the Minotaur waits. The battle itself is a study in both force and strategy. The Minotaur's strength is overwhelming, yet Theseus' courage, wit, and patience allow him to anticipate and counter each move. The clash is long, measured, a rhythmic dance of power and intelligence culminating in triumph that is as much about cleverness and persistence as it is about brute strength. Emerging from the labyrinth, Theseus carries not only the relief and joy of victory, but also the profound awareness of human potential, The quiet realization that courage combined with wisdom can overcome even the most labyrinthine challenges. Let your imagination trace his journey. The twisting passages, the echo of hooves and breath, the texture of walls under his fingertips, the tension of every heartbeat as he moves closer to the center, and the ultimate exhilarating release of triumph. Feel the subtle interplay of fear, determination, and intellect, and allow this careful, deliberate rhythm to synchronize with your own breath, drawing you deeper into calm focus and the gentle embrace of sleep as you traverse the maze alongside. Theseus, experiencing every calculated step, every pause, every surge of courage, every soft exhale of relief. As the age of heroes unfolded, stories of courage and cunning gave way to the epic and enduring saga of the Trojan War, a conflict that would shape the destinies of mortals and gods alike, a tale of passion, betrayal, honor, and the relentless passage of fate. Picture Troy, a city of walls and towers, bustling streets and quiet temples, alive with the daily rhythms of life, even as the seeds of conflict stir invisibly beneath the surface. Here, mortals, guided subtly by gods and propelled by desire, ambition, and vengeance, prepare for a war that will stretch over 10 long years, leaving echoes that will resonate through generations. At the heart of this conflict lies Helen, whose beauty sparks desire and fury, whose presence intertwines the destinies of kings, warriors, and gods alike, and whose story reminds us of the fragile, powerful force of human attraction and the consequences it can unleash. The heroes of both sides emerge, each with strengths, flaws, and fates interwoven with the divine. Achilles, unmatched in battle yet bound by his own pride and mortality, moves with the weight of inevitability, each strike precise, each step echoing the rhythm of destiny. Odysseus, clever and patient, uses wit and strategy where force would fail, weaving plans as intricate as the labyrinth itself, shaping the course of war with subtle genius. Hector, noble and courageous, embodies the honor and tragedy of loyalty to one's people, knowing that courage alone cannot always prevent loss. Gods themselves interfere subtly, their choices echoing across the battlefield. Athena whispers strategies. Apollo shields or strikes. Aphrodite guides hearts and fates. And Zeus watches, ensuring that the balance of power, though chaotic and unpredictable, never fully descends into annihilation. Imagine the battlefield stretching endlessly, the clash of spears and swords, a rhythmic, almost hypnotic pattern, the cries of warriors mingling with the low rumble of the earth and the distant call of the sea. Armies move in waves, tides of color and sound, yet within this chaos lie moments of quiet reflection, strategy, and human emotion. A soldier pausing to catch his breath, a leader calculating the next move, a hero wrestling with fear and courage, all moving slowly, deliberately, as if the rhythm of the world itself is measured by these acts of valor and thought. Amid the war, the cunning of Odysseus shines most brightly in the tale of the Trojan horse, a plan so audacious, so patient, so meticulous, that it turns the tide of war without a single open battle. Picture the hollow horse, towering at Troy's gates, silent and imposing, the hidden warriors within, the tension stretching across hours and days, until the final quiet moment of triumph when the city falls, and the consequences of human ambition, divine intervention, and meticulous planning ripple through history. Throughout the war, the gods and mortals are bound together in a delicate, hypnotic dance. Each choice, each movement, each heartbeat carries weight, shaping not only victory and defeat, but the eternal stories of courage, wisdom, love, and tragedy. Let your mind wander across these battlefields. The shifting sands, the sound of waves, the gleam of armor under the sun, the flicker of torchlight in Troy's streets. The measured steps of warriors approaching both doom and glory, and the quiet, almost imperceptible guidance of divine hands shaping destiny. Breathe with the rhythm of the story. Slow and steady, feeling the ebb and flow of tension and release, the pulse of heroism and intellect, and the gentle inevitability of fate. Allow these long, drawn-out moments to carry you deeper into calm, into reflection, into the gentle embrace of the timeless, hypnotic world of myth, where courage, love, and wisdom endure beyond the boundaries of mortal life, and where your mind drifts, unhurried, into serene, restful sleep.